Garzelli goes over the top first, then Lance Armstrong, and then Levi Leipheimer. That's the order at the top of the Passo del Ticino, the third category climb, and it's Armstrong leading them down. Well, I think that's more about controlling pace than anything else, Sean. He's certainly, I mean, he's a good descender, but he's not going to be attacking, I don't think.
No, certainly not. He's just going to lead them down, and if Armstrong's in the front, a lot of people will just leave him do it, and and really not push it. And he can, descend very, very well, and he's not going to take big risk here. Just keep it going at a good rate, and that way I think everybody just will follow, and that will suit the team as well. For Leipheimer, nobody on the front who's going to go crazy and maybe cause problems for a lot of the riders.
Congratulations to Crispin of the Swindon Road Club. Crispin Doyle, my old teammate. On a 2-day stage race. The Étape de la Défense. Well done. Your second cat now. Blimey. Should have kept racing. Well done, Crispin. He still wields an awful lot of influence, doesn't he, Sean? Even after 3 years away. If Lance Armstrong does something, there's not a lot of people want to take him on head-to-head.
No, certainly not. And as I mentioned, if he's leading down the descent and he's going at a good rate, which we can see here, he's pushing it on. Everybody is stretched out one line. That tells us the speed is quite high. Not a lot of people will try and come by him here on the descent and try and up the pace. They will just leave him do it.
Why not, after all? It would have been interesting to see what had happened if Filippo Simeoni's team had been picked at Flaminia. The Italian champion, not in the Giro d'Italia because his team wasn't included as a wildcard entry. And we all know the story about Filippo Simeoni and Lance Armstrong. Two of them not the best of friends. They tolerate each other now, I would suggest is probably the best way of putting it. Simeoni absolutely livid that he is the Italian national road race champion. He feels, of course, that his team was left out because Lance was coming. But he's not here. Would have been fascinating to see. He's still leading them on pretty handily with Leipheimer in his wheel. I think it's Popovic behind them, then Garzelli, then probably Cunego. Although it's a tad bit wobbly to find out at the moment. Of course, it could be the case, Sean, that he hasn't felt too comfortable being behind people in the last few days in the Giro d'Italia, so if he can lead out, he feels a little bit more comfortable that there aren't people around him.
Yes, well, that is the situation. If you're further back in the bunch, of course, there's always a possibility that riders will come by you on going into the corners. And if you're leading on the front, you have the motorbike out in front. We could see that, and you follow that, and it's a good guide down. And also, you're out in front. You're certainly out of that situation when there's no riders, out in front of you who can make mistakes. It's certainly the best way to do it. But you have to make the effort here. Although he's on the front, going downhill, and the motorbike is that little bit further on. It takes quite a bit of an effort, but he's certainly going to continue on doing it. He wants to hold the front here. We can see that because the speed also 63 kilometers an hour just a moment ago. He's going at a very good rate.
What about tomorrow's time trial for Lance Armstrong, Sean? Good course for him if he's in shape?
Well, certainly it would be a good course, a very good course if he was in shape. But the question, will he really go for tomorrow? Because if you go really 100% tomorrow over 60 kilometres, it's certainly a big ask, and maybe he will say it's better that I just ride this one and not give it 100%, recover a bit, because the next days after the time trial are very difficult, and he wants to get a long way through this Giro. Maybe he will go to the end. He said he's going to go all the way to the finish in Rome. So I would be a little bit concerned in his position to go really at it tomorrow, because there's a lot of difficult stages to come.
Mechanical for Filippo Bezzato, so Race Radio tells us. Just a quick question, I think I'm right in saying this. Lynn Lee says, what happened to David Miller's bike years ago, or last year, when he chucked it over the barriers just 200 metres or so, or 800 metres before the line with the chain snap? That was here in the Giro d'Italia, wasn't it? He was in a break. And they'd have picked it up, they'd have picked it up and taken it back and just put a new chain on it. Didn't stay there. Hardly seen Miller at all, of course. There we go. That's a good indication of what it's like to be passed around the outside on a bend. So the rider from Liquigas makes about 3 or 4 places. De Luca right behind Armstrong now. De Luca very comfortable descending in this sort of situation. He's a very good descender, very punchy rider, knows this course very well. And I'm not so sure actually that Lance Armstrong doesn't want to prove a little point in terms of Milan-San Remo, because this year not in the best of shape and all sorts of criticisms. Well, not criticisms, but just little pointed barbs. And those sort of things, is the sort of man that he remembers those sorts of things, does Lance. And now showing that he is in a good shape. I'm just sending out an indicator that on this course, it was just the timing and the coming back that was the case. Well, he's pulling out a little bit of a gap on other people, so he's certainly going for it, but can't shake De Luca, who's behind him. There's Edvard Boasson-Hagen in the middle of the group wearing the Ciclamino jersey, a points leader. He's in fact not the leader on the table, that is Danilo De Luca, but as he's wearing the Maya Rosa, the overall leader's jersey, it passes to the next person in line, who is Edvard Boasson-Hagen. Boasson-Hagen, big future ahead of him. I wonder where he will end up in the next few years in terms of teams and of course in terms of ability. I reckon if he sheds a few pounds, he might well turn himself into more of a Grand Tour rider as well, an overall rider. Looks like he's got Mick Rogers just behind him as well. And I think the rider behind Rogers is Kasiakov, the Swedish mountain biker, who's gone to the Fuji Soweto team and is a pretty interesting character, Sean Kasiakov. He's been climbing very well, although I think he's suffering as the period goes on. He might find himself failing a little bit towards the 3rd week. He's simply not used to Grand Tours, but a man who has come back from some terrible crashes and some terrible injuries to win a World Cup event and now seems to be making the transition to the road.
Yes, well, certainly he's performed very well in the past week of this race, and yesterday he wasn't that far off. He was up there, and he finished at 139 down on stage under Luke yesterday in 26th position. So certainly good performance yesterday. The problem will be to continue on this, but a big 3-week tour is going to be always difficult for him to to be able to perform right through for the 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's never an easy task to just move straight over. Filippo Pozzato then has had a mechanical problem, and it's been a disastrous Giro so far, considering it's such a huge budget team based in Italy for Katusha. I mean, I don't know what you think, Sean, but I just think it's been so far nada, nothing at all for them.
No, certainly it's not been a good start to the Tour of Italy. The first half not great, and for Pozzato yesterday as well, we heard over race radio he had a problem with the scent once again here today, and at the moment he's getting these problems. It just puts him totally out of contention. And this one today, for example, the final, he could be a danger man, because we've seen before do it against the sprinters. Pull a state victory off. If he gets one moment and he can take the sprinters by surprise, there's a little bit of a hesitation before the sprint starts, he can go for it, and he's certainly a great finisher over the last 600 metres, 1 kilometre, but he's certainly out of the situation here now. To get back is going to be impossible.
Yeah. Best man for Katusha so far pretty much has to be Ben Swift, I would say. He's been in a couple of breaks, he's been up there in the sprints, and the British rider, well, I mean, if he gets himself up here today, he's clearly got some legs. Well, he's a little bit off the pace in the Milan sprint, but you never know, could be one for him. And could he stick one over on fellow countryman Mark Cavendish? Who knows?
Well, yes, certainly. He's going to be trying here again, and if you're up there on the sprint, which Swift have been, and you're always going to try, to stay up there, and hopefully you just get a good run. And sometimes, like, it's so important if you're just in the right place at the right moment. When the sprinters start the sprint a bit early, and you're in the wheel and you follow through, and you can, just get a victory like that, and that's what they're hoping for, as maybe not one of the top sprinters, and they're all going to try. Any of the sprinters who feel that they can go for a stage victory, get a place here, they're going to give it everything, because it's one of the last days as well. This race, of course, there's so little number of days for the sprinters. For that, you have to try every occasion.
Well, we'll have to look for a Katusha jersey. We haven't seen one yet, but then we are concentrating on the front. De Luca having a little word with Lance Armstrong. It's all slowing down a little bit now as they all come back together at the bottom of this descent of the Ticino. Can we see... is that Cancellara, or is that... having a go. It's Fabian Cancellara now pulling it along. Cancellara is a man who knows a thing or two about putting the hammer down.